We talk endlessly about how Lewis Hamilton drives, the late braking, the way he attacks a corner, the magic with a set of tires. But almost nobody talks about the thing that actually controls all of it, the mind sitting behind the visor. Because the truth is that a Formula One car is not really driven by hands and feet. It is driven by a brain making thousands of decisions a minute, under more pressure than almost any human being on Earth will ever experience. And the reason Lewis Hamilton has more wins than any driver in history is not just physical talent. It is psychological architecture, a specific way of thinking that he has spent his entire life building. This is the psychology behind Lewis Hamilton's driving, and once you understand how his mind works, you will understand why so many faster cars in so many seasons still could not beat him. Let us start with the single most important piece of the puzzle: his relationship with pressure. Most people treat pressure as the enemy, something to survive, to endure, to get through. Hamilton does the opposite. He has said, in as many words, that he has learned to embrace pressure and use it to his advantage, that the key is to stay calm and composed in the most intense situations. To him, pressure is not a threat. It is a signal, a sign that what he is doing actually matters. He genuinely believes that pressure means you are doing something meaningful, and that it makes you stronger. That reframe sounds simple. It is not. It is one of the rarest psychological traits in elite sport, because in a Formula One car, fear and pressure trigger the exact physical responses that destroy lap time: tension in the arms, a death grip on the wheel, hesitation on the brakes, a brain that narrows and freezes. The driver who panics under pressure brakes a fraction too early, lifts a fraction too soon, and loses the race in 1,000 tiny flinches. Hamilton trained his mind to feel that same pressure and respond with calm instead of fear. And a calm driver is a fast driver. But where does that calm actually come from? Because you cannot simply decide to be calm at 300 kilometers an hour. It has to be built. And Hamilton built it through one specific tool that he has relied on his entire career: visualization. Hamilton has described visualization as one of the most powerful weapons he has. Before a race, he mentally drives every corner, every move, every possible scenario, rehearsing the entire Grand Prix inside his head before he has even left the garage. He has said that if you cannot visualize it, you cannot achieve it, that you have to see it, feel it, and believe it before it happens. Think about what that does to the brain. When Hamilton arrives at a corner in the actual race, his mind has already been there hundreds of times. The situation is not new. The decision is not a shock. He is not reacting in real time the way a less prepared driver is. He is recognizing something he has already lived through in his imagination. And recognition is far faster than reaction. This is why Hamilton so often looks like he has more time than everyone else. He does not have faster reflexes than the entire grid. He has a brain that arrived at the corner before the car did. Now here is where his psychology becomes genuinely fascinating, because it is not just defensive. It is not only about managing his own mind. Hamilton learned to weaponize psychology against his rivals. Watch Hamilton in a wheel-to-wheel battle, and you are not just watching a physical fight. You are watching a mental one. He is a master of applying relentless, patient pressure, sitting in a rival's mirrors lap after lap, never quite making the move, letting the other driver's own mind do the damage. Because a driver who knows Lewis Hamilton is behind him starts to think differently. He brakes a little earlier to protect the position. He glances in his mirrors when he should be looking ahead. He makes the small mistake that Hamilton was waiting for the entire time. Hamilton has built a career out of making other drivers crack, not by forcing them off the road, but by making the pressure of his presence unbearable. And it goes deeper than just being there. Over the years, drivers and analysts have noted how Hamilton uses the entire theater of a race weekend: the team radio, the body language, the calm in his voice when others are panicking, as part of the psychological game. He understands that Formula One is played as much in the rival's head as it is on the track. When his voice on the radio is measured and unhurried while a title rival sounds tense and rattled, that contrast is not an accident. It is a message. It says, "I am in control, and you are not." But perhaps the most important part of Hamilton's psychology is the part that almost broke him to build: his relationship with failure. Hamilton talks about mistakes the way an engineer talks about data. He has said, repeatedly, that he believes mistakes are simply learning opportunities, that failure is not the opposite of success, but a stage on the way to it. And this is not just a motivational poster. It is a functional psychological tool that directly affects how he drives. Here is why it matters. A driver who is terrified of making a mistake drives small. He leaves margin. He never quite commits, because commitment carries the risk of getting it wrong. But a driver who has genuinely made peace with failure can commit fully, can push right to the edge, because a mistake, to him, is not a catastrophe. It is information. That freedom from the fear of failure is what allows Hamilton to drive on the absolute limit when it matters most, in the moments when more fragile drivers pull back to protect themselves. And his career is the proof. Think about how often Lewis Hamilton has performed at his very best when things were going wrong. When he was behind, when the car was difficult, when the headlines had written him off. There is a pattern there, and it is psychological. Adversity does not shrink Hamilton, it focuses him. He has spoken about staying positive through the grind of a long season, about surrounding himself with supportive people, about protecting his own belief when the outside world doubts him. That belief, described by those who study him as something almost nothing can break, is the engine underneath everything else. And that belief was forged long before Formula One. It came from a childhood that was anything but easy. A working-class family. A father working multiple jobs to fund a karting dream. Being one of the only black kids in a paddock that did not look like him. Facing prejudice that most of his rivals never had to think about for a single second. Every one of those obstacles could have broken his belief. Instead, each one became a brick in it. By the time Hamilton reached Formula One, he had already spent years learning that doubt from the outside world means nothing if your belief on the inside is strong enough. That is not a lesson you can teach an adult. It has to be lived. And he lived it. So let us put the whole psychological profile together, because the pieces interlock in a way that explains everything. A mind that treats pressure as fuel rather than fear. A visualization habit so deep that he has lived the race before he drives it. A mastery of psychological warfare that makes rivals beat themselves. A relationship with failure that frees him to commit completely. And underneath all of it, a foundation of self-belief built brick by brick from a childhood of adversity, so solid that no amount of external doubt can crack it. That is the real machine behind the driving. The hands and the feet are just the output. The processor is the mind. And it is a mind that was, in many ways, more advanced than the talent it was steering, which is exactly why Hamilton kept winning long after the supposed prime years of a racing driver had passed. Physical reflexes fade with age. But psychology does not fade. Judgment, calm, mental discipline, the ability to manage pressure, those things deepen with time. Hamilton's greatest asset was never the thing that ages fastest. It was the thing that only gets stronger. And this raises a question worth sitting with. We spend so much time debating which driver has the most natural talent, the fastest hands, the sharpest reflexes. But what if that was never the most important measurement? What if the real separator at the very top of Formula One, where every driver is freakishly gifted, is not the body at all, but the mind? If that is true, then Lewis Hamilton was not just one of the most talented drivers in history. He was one of the most psychologically complete athletes the sport has ever produced, which is the part the record books can never quite capture. They count the wins, the poles, the championships. What they cannot show you is the thing that produced them, the quiet, relentless, perfectly engineered mind sitting behind the visor, calm while the world around it panicked, having already seen the finish line long before the lights ever went out. So the next time you watch Lewis Hamilton thread a car through an impossible gap or nurse a dying tire to a victory nobody thought was possible, remember what you are actually watching. Not just a driver, a way of thinking. The most powerful tool in his entire arsenal, the one you cannot see. And the one that no rival could ever copy.